fashion stylist, personal shopper.
Okay. All right. Because I put people on blast in a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the heads up.
There you go.
All right, no heads up.
All right. We are ready. All right. So welcome back to Dr. Laws and Friends. We are here with Ruby Burke, who is the Vice President of Sisters in Harmony. And so can you tell us a little bit about Sisters in Harmony and your role in Sisters in Harmony?
Well, I am the Vice President, Executive Director of Operations for Sisters in Harmony. My role is, originally we started with 4 people, as a lot of people know. Originally we started with 4, and now we have 2. It's, I'm involved with Sisters in Harmony because for me it's very personal. I look at my community and I see that there are things in there that I don't like.
Okay.
And just me alone, I can't change those things. But if I could bring the community together and people in my area together, we can change them.
Right.
And that's the only way that we're going to be able to change them.
So it sounds like Sisters in Harmony gives you that collective that you need.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I have noticed that since I started with Sisters in Harmony, I have more people wanting to do things, people expressing the fact that they do want to see a change, and that they're willing to work as long as they're working with people to make the change happen.
Yes.
As far as what our children read, what we see in movies, what we see on TV, the dancers and that type of thing. And I find that a lot of our children have low self-esteem. So there's, I mentor to young ladies, and I tell them, if you tell these young men to pull their pants up if they want to date you, they will. It's simple. Boys like girls.
Right.
And so you have the power.
Right.
As a woman, as a female, whether young or old, you have that power. And so that's what I try to do, empower women, empower young ladies so they can grow up to be productive women and entrepreneurs and know their strengths and their weaknesses, and any weaknesses that they have, they can work on.
Wonderful. And I know at Sisters in Harmony, it is about promoting positive images of women and putting those positive images back in the community on a mental, physical, and spiritual level.
Yes.
And just how powerful it is when you talk about self-esteem and raising people's self-esteem. We are an image society right now. Magazines, movies, television shows, and so many times people don't realize how influenced they are by someone's image. And so I know Brother Moja creates a lot of posters, and today we're here at Coco's Nail and Wax Studio in the East Fall section of Philadelphia, and we're doing the Hood for Life photo shoot in honor of Trayvon Martin. And so why is this project important to you personally today?
You know, my youngest son is 18.
Wow.
He's in school in Florida.
Oh,
And
it hit
so-
home in a lot of places.
Yes, definitely. And as I thought about that, I also remembered telling him and teaching him and his friends that when you go into a store, take your hood off. You want the person in the store to recognize your face. So if anything happens, they can point at you and say, it was not that child.
That's right.
And, you know, to think that my son is a good child. He does his little things, I'm sure, just like any other kid. But he's a good kid. I could imagine him just walking down the street, doing nothing, or on his way back to his apartment, and someone killing him just for having a hoodie on,
Right.
or just because of his race.
Right.
And the days that followed that, I was watching the news and I find that there have been so many other killings, such as that, and this has been since the Trayvon
Right.
incident.
Right.
And it's and then I look at Oklahoma City. A hate crime is a misdemeanor there, and it's like, really,
Right.
I don't understand that.
Right.
I don't get our laws and why they're not actually geared towards human beings,
Right.
as opposed to being geared toward the good old boy network of years ago.
And I think that's one thing this case has definitely done. It has caused people to really look at the laws that are in place. And there's so many laws that just have been, and people, you know, they live day to day, they get caught up, so to speak, in life. And if it doesn't happen to them, there's this feeling that it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's not as personal. And I think that's what surprised people about this case, is that so many people took it so personal. And there was such a worldwide reaction to it. And so as you're saying, with your son being 18 years old, being in Florida, I mean, that was so close to home.
And it was. I guess the fact that usually they can look at a child or look at their past record and they can say, you know, he was killed because of his past. But when you don't have a shady past and you have nothing like that, you know, they don't have anything to really stand on.
Right.
And so many of our young people don't have a shady past or anything like that. So you have to sort of sit back and think, if this can happen to this kid,
That's right.
it can happen to any of our
That's
children.
right. That's right.
You know, and whether it's a child that you bore or a child that's within your community.
Yes.
And our community is planet Earth. It's not just the area that you live in.
Exactly.
All of these kids are our kids.
Exactly.
And we need to make laws that protect them.
Yes.
Because if we don't, this is our future. If we don't protect them now, they won't protect us later.
And you know what? It's so interesting because as I looked at this case, what kept coming out to me was this idea of the victim, blaming the victim. Well, if he didn't have the hood on, he wouldn't have looked so suspicious. If, you know, and the fact that it was raining, so he would have a hood on. It's raining outside. But it made me think of women who have been raped and how if they didn't have the miniskirt on, they were asking for it. If they weren't dressed in the tight pants, they were asking. And I said, it's that same type of mentality. And so now that brings me to one of your projects. You have a book called Survivors.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about that book?
Well, Survivors is, I'm actually doing a second edition to make sure it's done properly.
Okay.
And it has stories of 20 women who have survived different ordeals in their lives. Some people have said, you know, is this a book on man bashing or something like that? And I'm like, some of the women there's a story of a woman who has MS. That has nothing to do with men bashing. This is just stories of women and their survival, how they worked to survive what they were going through.
Wonderful.
And so that's what it is. It's stories of women. And for me, writing is therapeutic.
Okay.
And I find that for a lot of women, writing is therapeutic for them. Men as well. But in my next book, we'll have stories of men in it.
Wonderful.
You know, but right now, the book that's out now, it has stories of women and all different types of stories. And yes, there is stories of abuse.
Okay.
But there's also stories of cancer survival.
Okay.
You know, and it doesn't mean that you're cured. It means that you've gone through something and you've survived.
Gotcha.
One of the things that my pastor always says is that there's no glory without a story.
I like it.
You know, when you get to the top, people who reach the top, when they look back, they can finally see, wow, I actually went through all of that to get here. And I truly believe that. There is just no glory without a story, and everyone has a story.
Everyone has a story, and I love the story of surviving and the fact that we survive many things. You know, from sickness, illness, relationships, as you mentioned, abuse. There's all types of ways in which we're surviving. And looking at Trayvon's parents, as well as many other families who have lost loved ones in different ways, how do you continue to live without that person physically being here anymore? And that's a survivor story as well. And so now you mentioned therapeutically that writing is therapeutic for you. Now you've also written a children's book as well.
Yes, when my kids were little, I used to go to their school. I volunteered at their school, And I used to tell this story about a talking horse in different scenarios. And so someone said to me I should put it in a book. And years later, that's what I ended up doing, putting it into a book, because my kids were older and I still volunteered at, some of the elementary schools. And that's what made me decide to go on and put it in a book.
And it's called?
And it's called Yap Yap the Talking Horse. It has stories, it teaches values and morals. And, actually I was talking to a friend of mine today, actually, and, we were talking about getting it into the school system and things like that. But the issue with that is it has the word God in it. And so with that one word, it and they did review it and everything, and they wanted, if I take that word out, I can actually get it in there. And
that's amazing.
Financially, that would be great. But for me, spiritually and morally, I just can't do it. And I've thought about it, and I've taken the word out, and I've tried to replace it, with a higher power, a higher thing and everything. I don't feel it. It changes. And it's only in one chapter, but it changes the entire book for me.
Yes.
And the meaning behind it.
Yes.
It's a good book. It has a little word search in the back and vocabulary.
So
and
it's the
puzzles.
stories up front and then the workbook in the back?
Yes.
Oh, that's appropriate.
Yeah, it's good. Like I said, it goes through stages. When he first goes back to school, the talking horse wants to go to school with him, but the horses
I
don't
wish I had a horse that went to school with me. I used to ask my parents for a horse all the time.
When your parents are here, I don't think you want to say that right now.
I asked them, they know I asked them for that horse. I still haven't had it. Y'all can tell by my face I still want
I
it.
see.
They told me the car had to go in the garage. I couldn't understand why the horse couldn't go in the garage, but we'll still work on that. Still working on that horse.
Okay.
All right, maybe Yap can talk to them in their sleep, and he'll come home with me one day.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ruby, for taking the time and talking with us here at Dr. Laws and Friends. Again, we are live from Coco's Nail and Wax Studio at 4161 Bridge Avenue in the Philadelphia, East Falls, Philadelphia section of Pennsylvania. All right.
Yes. And if you want to purchase the book, you can go to www.rubyburke.com.
Thank you very
very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Okay.